All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time is now 8:35. Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. Good morning, my name is Winston Robinson. I am your facilitator today, along co-facilitators, Ms. Laura McClellan, Ms. Carlenia Ivory Canty, Ms. Jackie Edwards Walton, our timekeeper, Ms. Natalie McElrath, Ms. Mary Johnson, our archivist and website editor, Steve Johnston, and our chaplain, Ms. Sarita Sherrill. Our forum begins at 8:30 a.m. and concludes at 9:45 a.m., at which time we will pause for announcements from the audience. Announcements can also be sent to Steve Johnston, again, website editor, at sjohnston, with a T, at TuesdayForumCharlotte.org. We always open with prayer, and we will have Ms. Rita, our chaplain, come lead us in word of prayer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for today. We know that you made today, and we are glad that you made us part of it. Thank you, Jesus, for saving us through today. Our circle has not been broken. God, remember our nation. Remember our leaders in the debate 2 days from today. Remember our children every place. We know that you are a light unto our feet, and you are a lamp to show us the way. We remember the task force members. Bless them, Father, and their duties. Keep us focused and keep our children focused in the classes as they go to summer school. God, please help us as a nation. Bless our nation, bless our state, bless our county, our city, and our neighborhoods. Bless our homes. It's in your son Jesus' name we pray. Let us all say together.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Ms. Sarita. And of course, after we have prayer, we always take a moment for silence. And that is the time to silence your phone, Dad. So leave this. You got your phones up? Yeah. Don't be the one. Take a moment to silence your phones. All right. Thank you so much. Our guest today is none other than entrepreneur, Ms. Nikita Allen of Grow Medics, who will speak to us about her business and how to succession plan, or the reasons you should have a succession plan for your business. Following the presentation, we will take questions from the audience. We have a virtual audience as well. The room is also a revolving door, so people will come in and out. Following the presentation, we will take questions from the audience. Please raise your hand, and we will add your name to a list of questions, of people with questions. I will call on you in the order in which your name was added to said list. Questions should be questions and no longer than 30 seconds. Our timekeeper, Ms. Natalie McElrath, will signal you when you have reached your limits. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Romantic's own from Detroit, Michigan, Ms. Nikita Allen. We really need some music. That would be perfect.
We try to sing, but I'm not good at that. Starting this one.
Okay, good. Thank you. I'm excited to be here today. I do have one small correction. I am happy to talk about succession planning today, but my presentation that I prepared is more around economic mobility in Charlotte, which I feel like y'all might want to hear more about that than succession planning. So I'm happy to throw in some succession planning type stuff, but that's where my focus is going to be today. So my name is Nikki Allen, or it's actually Nikita, as you heard him say, but everybody calls me Nikki. And I am from Detroit, Michigan. As you heard, I was born in the 80s. Well, I was born in the 70s, but I grew up in the 80s. And this was a time when Michael Jackson and Prince and Whitney was around. And I absolutely love music. I love music. I can tell you another thing that I love though, is I love reading and I love learning and I love growing. So when you hear my company name Growmetics, it's all about creating growth and opportunities for other people of color. So we work with, as coaches and trainers, we work with small business owners who want to grow. If they want to start a business, if they want to build a business, if they want to scale that business, we will provide coaching services or training services. And then I also happen to be the facilitator for AMP Up Charlotte. AMP Up Charlotte is a business accelerator program that is sponsored by the city of Charlotte. They hired my company, Growmetics, to teach small business owners. We have run 8 cohorts in the past 6 years and graduated 120 graduates from AMP Up Charlotte, and are really excited about the great work that they're doing. So I'll tell you a little bit more about AMP Up Charlotte later, but for now, I just want to share a little bit more about my journey. So I talked about reading. My sister is a Harlequin romance or those kind of novels. That's not me. I talked about growth, right? I'm a growth person, so I like to read leadership books. I like to read books about business. I like to read self-help books and psychology books, all sorts of things like that. And I spend a lot of time doing that kind of thing, and it helps me grow. I'm the kind of person that wants to get better. I want to be better at every single thing that I'm doing, every time that I'm doing it. So I use reading as a tool for that. Also, though, relationships. So when I came to Charlotte in 2004, that's exactly 20 years ago, I got here in February 2004, I already owned a business. I started a company back in '99. This is my second company. And I got here in Charlotte and I immediately wanted to plug into the business infrastructure, the entrepreneurial ecosystem that's here in Charlotte. And 20 years ago, it was a little lighter than it is today. It's grown a lot, and I'm excited to be a part of that. But 20 years ago, I plugged into the Black Chamber. That was here in Charlotte. I got involved with Leadership Charlotte. I was class 38, the best class ever. And then I also got involved with the Mecklenburg County Small Business Advisory Committee, so on and so forth. And that yielded some relationships for me, some great relationships, some deep relationships. And those relationships helped my business at that time grow. When we came to Charlotte in 2004, which is a small shop, I call it a single shingle shop, say that 3 times, so single shingle shop. But in the time from 2004 to 2016, when I finally sold the business, we grew to a place where I was able to change my family's economic circumstance. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal. And it's a big deal for people of color. I can tell you that as well. So there's a few things that I learned when I was getting to know Charlotte 20 years ago. One of the things that I learned is that the city of Charlotte has opportunities. It has opportunities. So the city of Charlotte is growing, and it's been growing since I got here. I don't know if y'all noticed, I'm sure you have, over the last 20 years, the landscape has changed. Construction projects are out there. We have people coming to the city every day, and we have projects, and we're building things to make sure that the infrastructure that needs to be here for those people, for the growth of the city, is happening. One example, and this isn't of growth, it's of sort of refurbishing, is the city of Charlotte just released news, of course, that they are going to, I think it's $650 million that they're putting into the stadium, Bank of America Stadium, where the Panthers play. And so there's opportunity there, but I'm curious, how many Black and brown businesses do you think will be included in that building, in that refurbishing, in that renovation? Not many, like you said, it's not many. And why is that, right? Like our history tells us that we disproportionately get access to those potential opportunities. We're agreeing that there's opportunity here, but sometimes we don't get access to them. Now you hear people say, and I've heard it say, I was here a couple of weeks ago when Councilman Mitchell was here, and he talked about the budget. And people asked him, well, how many of those dollars will be allocated to small business owners, to business owners of color? Will there be a mandate? Will we require some of the tier one suppliers to be sure that they give business to business owners of color? And he said, absolutely, they're going to be doing that. And I think that that's important, but I also think, you laugh, why you laughing? You don't believe it, you don't think that's going to happen. It is necessary though, it's absolutely necessary. But there is another side of the coin. There's another side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin is being ready, right? Being ready to do business with large companies, do business with the government, et cetera, et cetera. I told you my business grew from 2004 to 2016 when I sold it. And in that time, we were able to get contracts through those relationships that I talked about, get contracts with the city of Charlotte. We worked with the city of Durham. We worked with the U.S. Navy, providing training to those organizations. That was through the relationships that we built, but it was also ties back to that growth and that learning that I talked about as well. So I want you to think for a moment about a single shingle. That's what I told you I was when I got here. Single shingle means that you are the business owner. You are the person who's the, what do they say, chief cook and bottle washer, right? You are the one who is doing the work for the client. You got to go find the clients. You got to make sure you bill the clients. You got to make sure you collect from the clients. You got to do all that kind of stuff. And if you're doing that, where is there time for you to grow? Where is there time for you to grow if you're doing all those things? So I think that as small business owners, sometimes we get trapped in that I'm going to set up my single shingle shop and I'm going to be the person doing all the stuff. And sometimes that means that we don't get the opportunity, in addition to the other reasons, but we don't get the opportunity because we can't scale. We can't grow, we can't get busy. We can't get business because we're busy doing the work every single day. And so that's where the role of a business growth accelerator comes into play. So a business growth accelerator, I had a question about if there is business to be had, why aren't we getting the business? I just shared that with you. But if there is a business growth accelerator that's available to small business owners, those business growth accelerators can help business owners grow. And let me tell you how. So they will help business owners get the skill sets and the mindsets that they need to shift the rhetoric around that single shingle shop. Help them get contracts by getting certifications that they need. Help business owners build relationships with other organizations that maybe they can partner with so they don't have to continue to be the single shop. I serve, as I mentioned, as a business coach, and a lot of times what I'm helping with is people who I want to grow, I want to hire people, or maybe I have hired people, but I don't yet know how to lead those people. And so that's another role that a business accelerator can play. And I'm going to talk about a few business accelerators. I'm going to focus in on two of them because there's the ones that I'm affiliated with, but I want you to know that Charlotte is just filled today with lots of business accelerators that can help a small business grow, can help a small business get ready for the many, many opportunities that I mentioned are available in the city of Charlotte. So let's talk about two of those business accelerators. So these are two that I'm engaged with. One of them I mentioned earlier is AMP Up Charlotte. AMP Up Charlotte has been around since 2018. It is sponsored by the city of Charlotte in partnership with my company, Grow Medics. But we also partner with a learning provider, a curriculum provider out of Boston. And that's called Enterprise. And it's a 13-session, 26 weeks, so that's a long time. That's 7 months, right, that people are immersed in this business accelerator, where they are learning how to be a leader. That's one of the first topics that we tackle. It's like you as a leader, you can't grow your business if you aren't growing yourselves, if you don't have that mindset. Then we also talk to them about finances. We bring experts in from the community who are financial experts to teach business owners how to look at their financial statements and understand what they mean so that they can make smart decisions about how their business can grow. We move on from there, talking about marketing and customers, like how do you understand who your target customer is? How do you reach that target customer? And then we also help them with getting contracts, like how do you do business with the government or large corporations as well. And then they round out the program by giving a presentation of what they learned. It's a growth plan, a 3-year growth plan that they walk away with. We couple this with coaching so that by the time you finish this 26-week program, you got somebody to help you move forward with the growth plan that you put together. This program is only open to ethnic minorities. So if you're a person of color or know someone that's a person of color that owns a business and wants to be able to grow and get there so that they can get the available opportunities that are here in the city of Charlotte, Amp Up Charlotte is a great program to refer them to. And then there's Luna Launchpad. So Luna Launchpad is new. And if you see me with a big smile on my face, it's because we just won this incredible grant from NCIDEA, which is a state organization that's all about entrepreneurship. I sit on the board of the North Carolina Black Entrepreneurs Council. And that council put together a grant cycle, and we applied for it and were able to win some money that allowed us to put this program together. So Luna Launchpad is specifically for Black womenpreneurs. And this one is focused on women who maybe they've been working in corporate for a while and they got a side hustle that they've been working on for a minute and they think it could grow, but they're not sure what steps to take to get to the next place. And so we're going to show those womenpreneurs over the course of 10 weeks how to take that side hustle to become full-time founder of that business. They will have a transition plan that allows them to be confident, because that's where a lot of the trouble comes from, is I need some confidence to be able to get out there and know that I can make the same money that I might have been making in my career in my small business as well. So those are the 2 programs that I want to highlight, but I also want to call your attention to a few others that are in Charlotte. So these are ones that I know about as a part of the work that I do with Luna Launchpad and Amp Up Charlotte. I spend time with a lot of the other accelerators that are in Charlotte. And there are many, as I mentioned earlier. So Amp Up Charlotte, there's Aspire, there's BoostPad, there's City Startup Labs, there's Generator, that's coming soon actually. Get Up and Grow, that's sponsored by Mecklenburg County. Next CLT, Rev Tech Labs, and Scale Up Charlotte. There are probably others. I'm thinking EO Accelerator is not listed here, but I just want you to know that there's lots of opportunity to get the help and support that you need, so that when you're thinking about that 2-sided coin that I mentioned, one of them for sure is let's make sure that we're creating opportunity in terms of the contracting, but the other is let's make sure that we're ready to do business so that we can get those opportunities. That's it for me. I'd love to take some questions from you about anything that I've shared today. Again, my name is Nikki Allen. I'm just delighted to be here with you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Allen. It's Tuesday morning forum tradition that Tommy Robinson has the first question, and after that, Mr. Ken Combs.
Yes, I've been an entrepreneur for 77, started when I'm 23. I'm an artist, but I found in my traveling stuff that we tell our young people the wrong thing. We tell them to go to school, get an education, so we can get a good job. And then when they come out of school, that's what they're here to do, is to get a good job. I think I'm glad to have you here this morning, because we're talking about entrepreneurship. America, make no bones about it, it's a capitalist society. They'll tell you that anywhere you go from 3rd grade on up, this is a capitalist society. And capitalism is. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I couldn't agree with you more. I can tell you the same story that I've shared many times is go to school, go to school, go to school. I have 3 grown kids, and they have gone to school, and they got a whole bunch of student loans. And sometimes are having a hard time finding a job, even though they have gone to school and gotten a bachelor's degree and gotten a master's degree. And so I'm a huge advocate of creating other paths for people to be able to earn money to change their economic circles. And it's huge. And I love to use entrepreneurship as the tool that people can leverage to do that. Thank you for that.
Mr. Combs.
In 1983, I started a public relations consultancy, and the first thing I did was join the Chamber of Commerce. That was the greatest thing I did. And I tried to encourage other businesses to join the Chamber of Commerce, and many of them did, and continued down their path of just instead of other. In addition to that, I was in class 4 leadership, Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What did I say? Class 38?
Yes, so you basically said you in your experience, when my era came along, we were asking majority businesses through their MBE programs and so forth to support and encourage the development of minority businesses. And most recent statistics showed that Charlotte was number 50 out of 50 cities. And in the context of what it is that you do, we have a lot of minorities who are now CEOs and chairs of boards and so forth. And the landscape seems to have changed in the context of what we ask for as MBEs and what we're able to get.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems that we're from those companies are getting a little more, but we're still in the begging process. What do you find in regards to how effectively we're moving that needle from 50 up to the top 10?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. You and I probably share a sentiment around this, is that it's too slow, right? The needle moving is a little bit too slow. The business owners that I work with, what I'm finding is that we're starting a lot of businesses. And if you look at the numbers, if we pull numbers from the Secretary of State, Black and brown businesses are starting at record rates. But we continue to be what I told you, we're the single shingle 1 or 2 person shops. And so the other side of the work that Gromedics does, we also have a 2-sided coin. We don't just work with entrepreneurs, we also work with corporations and the organizations to have discussions around what are your procurement practices, how innovative are you being with your leaders in terms of understanding how to create opportunities for persons of color, because they're probably not going to be the big, huge company that you really want to work with. Now, I do absolutely get their desire. I was talking with someone recently about, when you have an incumbent that's been in place for a long time, and I want you to think about your barber. I want you to think about your salon stylist. That's your incumbent. Are you giving an opportunity to any old body, right? When you've been getting your hair cut the right way for all these years, when you getting your hair done just right and she know how to lay it, like you're not like, oh, I'm just gonna go to somebody else just cause. And so that's what a lot of these big companies are doing, is that they have relationships. I mentioned relationships earlier, and they're good relationships, and people are doing a great job. And so sometimes we want to come along and we want to say, hey, what about me over here? But I got this great stylist, and I got this, this great barber that's doing my hair. And so we want to help them see that there's opportunity out there, but not put them in a situation where they have to give up that thing that's really been working for them for a long time. The way that we do that is by working with those leaders in the organizations to really help them understand the value that diversity brings to their organization, and help them think about new practices that they can put in place to help their partners team, or hire a company like Gromedics that can build out training programs to help those people scale. And then we also want to create opportunities for them to connect with larger organizations and government agencies so that they can build those relationships and become that great barber or that great stylist that's able to do the hair they're looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. The Jackie Robinson of Leadership Charlotte. Ms. McClellan.
Thank you again for being here. And I'm class number 10. That was the best team in Leadership Charlotte. In Charlotte, North Carolina. Class number 10. Can you please just walk us through the process? I am a new entrepreneur, and I want to open a bridal shop. and help walk me through the process and talk about the time that it takes. I know you said 7, did you say 7 months? 7?
For Amp of Charlotte, yes.
The intro shop. But walk me through the process as, you know, if you can, as detailed as you possibly can about what I would have to do in the time that it takes to do it individually for me as a business owner.
Yeah, I love that question. And I want to start when you talk about the time that it takes is there's basics, right, that we have to get out of the way. I do business coaching. I work with Black and brown people who are trying to grow their business, and a lot of times they come to the table and they haven't established a basic foundation that you need to even own a business, like getting registered with the Secretary of State, right? Just starting there, getting a business name on the books that says, hey, I'm in business, forming your business through the articles of incorporation, all of kinds of things that we have to do. A lot of people just want to say, hey, I'm Nikki Allen and I'm doing a thing. And that doesn't necessarily equate to being a business. And so you want to get those basic things out of the way before you ever even come to, well, I should say some of the business accelerators want to get those basic things out of the way. I gave you a whole list of them. Some of them will work with people who just have an idea. You haven't formed a business yet, but I got an idea and I want to move forward with that. So you just got to pay attention to what the requirements are for the program. Now for Amp Up Charlotte specifically, I said it's 7 months long, and Amp Up Charlotte does not cater to startups. What they cater to is people who have been in the business for a minute. 2 years is the requirement. They want you to have at least one other employee. And we ask for that because it's 7 months of intense work, and we don't want your business to fall apart while you, that single person, remember we talked about the time, while you in class trying to learn and grow and be, we want you to have at least one employee. And then the third requirement is that you have hit at least 175K in revenue. Now that's for AMP Up. I showed you a list of a lot of other programs. And I can tell you Luna Launchpad, for instance, if you are a woman who's exiting corporate America, you want to make your side gig, your full-time thing, you only have to show about $25,000 in annual revenue. We want to know that you've got something to start with, something to work with that we can help you grow. But again, other programs, just an idea. So that's a little bit of the requirements for the program. You talked about walking you through the step-by-step piece of it. To get into an accelerator program, it's really just applying. Some of them will require that you have a video or produce something like that. Others, there's an interview process that you want to go through. And you'll just be asked a few questions. The process is very, very competitive. Every time we run Amp Up Charlotte, which by the way, we're kicking off another cohort this fall, applications, I believe, are going to be open in early August for that program. Every time we run the interview process for that, we get hundreds of applications from people, and we can only take 20 people per program. We run the program twice a year, and there's only 20. And same thing for Luna Launchpad. Our max is 20 in the program as well of those Black women that I talked about who are leaving corporate and want to do the full-time thing in entrepreneurship. But it is a competitive process. And so if you meet the requirements and other things I can tell you as a facilitator, I'm going to take off my business person hat and put on my teacher hat for a moment. I don't want to deal with people who are over talking me, right? So if you can't be a student in the classroom, that's going to be a problem. And we're probably going to look for another applicant out of the hundreds that we have to choose from to fit into that 20. We're looking for people who are willing to share and support other small business owners as well. One of the things we like to acknowledge is that if you've run a business, and I know y'all know this because a lot of business owners in this room, if you have run a business, you know some things, you've done some things. Bring that expertise to the table and share with other people. A lot of the richness from these accelerators is not just, ooh, I'm the teacher and I'm going to tell you what to do. It comes from relationships that you build with other people in the program, and it comes with what you're sharing and what you're giving as well. And then the last thing I would say about the process when we're looking for applicants is you got to be somebody that's willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work. I mean, entrepreneurship, business, work, anything doesn't happen without you being willing to get out there and do what you need to do to make it happen. So if there's requirements of the program to show up, I always tell people we only got 20 slots, and for the City of Charlotte program specifically, Those are taxpayer dollars. It's a free program. It doesn't cost any money to get into it. But the commitment that we ask for is that you show up and that you do the work. And that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for during the application process to say, yeah, this person could be a really good fit for any of the accelerator programs, but particularly Luna Launchpad and Anthem Charlotte.
Mr. Tommy Robinson and Ken Combs. No, excuse me, Gary, Tommy, Ken.
Good morning. I apologize if this is redundant, but the city of Charlotte is in the process of launching another accelerator focused on diversity businesses and capital funding in Generator. Can you somewhat explain the difference between an accelerator and an incubator? Because we have organizations like City Startup Labs, which is more of an incubator, but they both assist in development. Can you kind of explain the process of those?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you for that question. Just so y'all know, I mentioned this last time I was here, but Gary and I sat on the board of the Black Chamber together. So I've spent many years with Gary and really appreciate his leadership in the community. And that's a really good question around the difference between the accelerator and the incubator. So the accelerator generally is going to provide the learning, the coaching. Some of them will give you a little bit of money. Like I know Next CLT gives you like $15,000 over the time of the program that you're able to get. But generally, things like money and actual physical support for your business. So say like you need a space, that kind of thing is going to come from an incubator. You go, you set up office, you set up shop, and they do give you learning and teaching, but you're going to be there sort of like an entrepreneur in residence, actually running your business with the help and support of whatever team is in that place doing that. And because you're co-located with other businesses as well, there's opportunity for teaming and partnerships and relationship building because you're in that space. And an accelerator, you're running your business out on your own, not necessarily taking up space in a building, but you're coming together to take a class and learn and grow and get the feedback and information that you need to build your business out. Thanks for that question, Gary.
Dad, before you go, just piggybacking off that question and what Mr. Combs stated earlier, can you expound on Chamber, Black Chamber, Chamber of Commerce, what it is, how to get engaged, the benefits, just kind of have a little discussion around it.
Yeah, I love that question. I haven't been involved with the Chamber probably since before COVID, I'm guessing. But when I was there, when Gary and I were there, man, it was a good time. Henry Rock, who runs City Startup Labs, he was on the board of the Chamber at that time. I'm trying to think of some other names, but it was a really good time because you really felt like you were helping the community. I can tell you the Black Chamber is the place that when you don't live in Charlotte and you want to be able to reach business owners of color, you're going to reach out to the Black Chamber. So people who have funds, people who have grants that are directed at Black-owned businesses, people who want to get that audience, they're talking to the Black Chamber first. That's the first place that they're going to go. And so if you become a Black Chamber member, it just grants you access, right, to hearing about those things. I know when I was on the board of the Black Chamber, we created, because I love training and growth and learning, right, I said that, we created programs. We had an accelerator program. I don't know if they're running one right now, but there was one called My Big that was sponsored. I think our partner, Gary, was, I don't want to say the wrong bank.
I think it was Wells.
It was Wells Fargo. I was going to say a different one, so thank you for that. But yeah, we sponsored an accelerator program. We partnered with Wells Fargo and put on an accelerator of ourselves that ran for a few years, and it may again still be in operation. But yeah, there's opportunities, there's learning, there's events that they put on so that you can connect with other entrepreneurs as well, and specifically Black entrepreneurs. We know in Charlotte there's a Latin American chamber, there's a general business chamber, there's lots of chambers around. There's the LGBTQ chamber. So pick one, right? Pick the one that's right for you, that makes sense for you. There's also Metrolina Minority Contractors Association. That's here as well. So lots of organizations in Charlotte to kind of help people get connected and find opportunities to grow their business.
All right, Tom Ross.
Yes, I studied this like we had more businesses under segregation than we had under integration because they was forced upon us. Like we couldn't go to them. White people had restaurants, black people had cafes. I remember. But why can't we become more? We used to be the business people. I worked first two jobs I had. One was on the vegetable truck, and one was on the milk truck. Black man on the vegetable truck. But why can't we understand that America is about business? It's not about a job. It's about business. You know.
Yeah, I love the question. I gotta tell you, you way back before before my time. But I can tell you, I tell stories. People ask me how I got started as an entrepreneur. And I always say that my father was an entrepreneur when I was growing up. My father was a computer engineer, and he tells me that he wanted to be the next IBM. Now, this is back in 1980. He would be the next IBM. He was working in his basement, and he would literally pay us. I had two brothers growing up. He paid us 2 cents a board to solder computer boards, right? 2 cents a board. That's how I got my start. I worked in corporate American technology for a while. I just picked it up from my dad. Like I didn't have to go and learn a thing and do a thing. Like one thing I think is missing to your point is apprenticeships, right? We don't have those a lot anymore. But I was my father's own, right? I was his apprentice, and it came to building computer parts and building computers. But the one thing that I don't often give credit for is my mother. And my mother didn't have a business card, and she didn't go out and shake hands with clients. But you know what my mother did? She did hair. And when she wasn't doing hair, she was running the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm just being real, right? That's what she's doing. She's running the numbers, remember old numbers, man?
Yeah.
You know, she did that. And so I would say that is entrepreneurship, right? That's a conversation that I have with coaching clients. I just had one yesterday, and we were talking about what does entrepreneurship mean to you? And I think it does exist in our communities, to your point. We are doing things. We're just not doing the formal, let me go form a business and, I'm gonna have some clients and put up a website. But we are entrepreneurial. We absolutely are entrepreneurial. So I agree with you.
Allegedly, Mama, allegedly. Allegedly.
Yes, allegedly, I'm entrepreneurial.
Allegedly.
She called out. So
All right, Mr. Coons.
Tommy Robinson say that the statute of limitations has run out. So you can vote. I mentioned earlier about being in leadership Charlotte class 4. And at that time, there was an organization called the Charlotte Business League. And it was a group of Black-owned businesses. And it incorporated the medical, dental, pharmaceutical society as well. When we got to 80 members, we thought we was something. We also had what was called the Carolina Minority Suppliers Development Council, which I think still exists.
it does.
And through that, there was also a man who ran a Black Chamber of Commerce. And my desire was, and I had relationships, and in part because, not in part, but because of my background and relationships. And so it made it a lot easier for me. However, I find that a lot of these younger minority, I'll say Black entrepreneurs have come into a city that is so much bigger than the time when I came along that I can't identify with a lot of what it is they do. But there's some basic things that I see that don't exist, that did exist back then, and that was we knew each other. How much of a challenge is it in terms of your reaching out to people to consider what their prior relationships were? Because a lot of business is getting done by relationships.
Oh, I agree. And I mentioned that, right? Like I mentioned that that's what we did. I laugh because my students are always like, there's no way this is true. But I tell them I got a little secret for you, and that's I'm an introvert. And they see me teaching and laughing and engaging with them. They're like, there's no way you could be an introvert. But I am, I absolutely am. And I define that as kind of where I get my energy. I I am the person who wants to go home and relax to recharge and then come out and engage, where some people get their energy from people. And so what that means for me in terms of networking and building relationships is I'm going to focus on one-on-one relationships, right? I want those deep relationships. And I find that sometimes those are the places where you can build business. It's good to go out and network and meet people. You can't get to the one-on-one if you don't meet them in the first place. But if we're thinking about the difference between those surface relationships and those intimate relationships, those are the ones, right? The ones that sometimes I hear, I don't play golf, but they get developed on the golf course because you're spending so much time with that person over the course of a day. People get to know you, they get to understand who you are. If you are, a hard worker, if you deliver on promises that you make, like all sorts of things that people are gauging. And we all gauge this in our minds as we meet people. And that's what helps them make decisions about what opportunities they might share with you that they know about. And I'll tell you, even for Charlotte, I mentioned when I worked with the Black Chamber that we put on some programs. I was delivering a presentation very similar to this. I think I was talking about, it was a lunch and learn, and I might have been talking about how to take your passion and make it productive for your business or something like that. And in the audience was Jerry Ann Jackson, who used to work with the city of Charlotte. This was years ago, well before I started my work with AMBA. And she said, oh my gosh, like I really loved that presentation. He came up to me afterwards and we started having lunch together, maybe once a quarter. And then over time, just built this great relationship. So when we got that report you were talking about earlier about being 50th, right? That report came out and the City of Charlotte Economic Development Department was trying to figure out how do we respond to this when it comes to small business owners. And they reached out to Enterprise, which is in Boston, that's the curriculum provider for AMBUP, and said, hey, we want to put this program out. They got a grant from Living Cities, that's how that got started. Jerry Ann was put in charge of that program. And Jerry Ann reached out to a short list of people with whom she had a relationship. I was on that list, right? I was on that list. Now, did I still have to go through an interview process? It was pretty tough. Did I still have to be ready? Because I talked about that earlier. Now, if she had reached out to me and I didn't have my certification and I wasn't a legal business or I didn't this or I didn't that, no way. So it's not just relationships. You still have to be ready. But when she came calling and the opportunity was presented and I interviewed and I shared my background and my experience and all my credentials, they said, ooh, this is a good fit. And that's how I got engaged with AMBA Charlotte 6 years ago, almost 7 now. But yes, it's relationships, but it's also be ready and stay ready.
All right, we have Natasha.
Good morning, and thank you for introducing all of these accelerator programs. I'm Natasha Oates. I am a business owner as well. And I'm getting a sense that there's a lot out there, and it's also that they offer similar things. But I'm hearing from your presentation just the importance of relationships. So what's your advice on engaging out of these programs? What are the quality relationship potential that we could gain in terms of choosing one?
Yeah, I love that question. And they are. I mean, some of them are related. There is a collective in Charlotte called Become Charlotte, and it is a collective of what we call business support organizations. So the ones that you saw me show on the screen, and maybe I'll pull them up in just a moment here. Aspire, Community Capital, City Startup Labs, Next ELT, they all meet once a month. We all get together and we meet because we're serving the same audience. And we want to be sure that we're cross-pollinating in terms of the value that we're bringing to the table. And I mentioned that I know all the intimate details about the two programs, Luna Launchpad and AMBO Charlotte, but the other programs have their own requirements as well, and they have their own kind of outcomes that they're looking for. One of them, for instance, EO Accelerator, their goal is to get you to $1 million. They have some entry requirements. You already got to be at, 250, or I don't know what your requirement is. We'll look that up on the website and find that out. But you have to start off at a certain place. Other programs, as I mentioned, you could start with just an idea. I'm pretty sure Gary Generator that you mentioned there, you could just come with an idea. So you don't have to have that requirement as well. So I don't want to go through like every single one and like what the different aspects are. I would certainly encourage you. I'll share the list that I have. There are others out there. If you go and you Google business accelerators in Charlotte, man, there's a lot of stuff that pops up. And they all have different requirements to get in, but I promise you, wherever you are in your business journey, there's a place for you amongst all of the business accelerators that Charlotte has available. Some of them are private, meaning they're owned by a private company, so Gromex and Luna Launchpad, for instance. I love to maintain my status as a for-profit organization because I'm teaching for-profit companies, but some of them are sponsored by nonprofit organizations. And so depending on who you are and what you're looking for, there's a fit for you within the context of these programs that I've shared.
Nikita, I got a question. Can you speak to what your curriculum provides to kind of respond to the fears and anxiety that come along with growth? For example, if you are a small business and you're growing in a space and now you need to offer employee insurances or things that, you know, that could generate, again, a sharp and just a heavy burden and cost, and you don't know how to get over those hurdles. How do you approach things like that, the growing pains?
Yeah. One of the things I love about the programs that I teach is it's a lot of conversation. I mentioned I'm not coming in and like, hey, I'm Nikki and I know everything and I'm going to tell you what to do with your business. That's not my approach. My approach is you're bringing something to the table. And so we have these incredibly rich conversations with the entrepreneurs themselves. And that sort of guides the curriculum and guides how I facilitate the program. And they oftentimes bring up things that are of concern to them. One of the things that shows up in all the 8 cohorts, going on the 9th now that we've done for AMPA, has been, how do I not get in debt, right? Yeah. Because we were taught growing up, you don't do debt. You don't get no credit cards. You don't go get no loans. You don't do any of that stuff. And the reason why we were taught that, and it was true at the time, if you got something and you owe somebody for it, they might come get it. Yes. Right? You might lose your job. Something could happen, and you are now not going to be able to have that thing anymore. And there's things that we need. I'm not talking about wants, I'm talking about needs that we might have. And so we have those conversations in the classroom around how using debt wisely can serve your business, right? If you're smart with it, if you understand what you're doing and how to leverage it, if you're making sure you're taking care of your credit so that you get lower rates and like things like that. And we also pull them together with relationship bankers and financial persons to talk about the intricacies of those financial statements and the financial decisions that you're making so that you can put yourself in a place where you can get the right opportunities. And I'm not an expert on all of the City of Charlotte and Mecklenburg programs, but I do know that Mecklenburg offers a loan lending program, Make Lending, that has lower rates in terms of that. So we've had those discussions. One in particular, I'm thinking about and this is just an example, but one of our participants in the program had gone out and gotten a truck for her business. And she paid cash for it. We all want to pay cash, right? Like, oh, I'm going to pay cash, I'm good. But then when tough times came in her business, she didn't have that cash available to take care of things like payroll, right? You talked about hiring people. She didn't have that cash available. And so what the class coached and counseled her to do is find somebody where you can get a loan, like you still have the vehicle so you can go and get a loan for it, at a good interest rate. That gives you that money back in your pocket so that you can leverage that. And instead of paying it all in one lump sum, I can pay over time in smaller increments. That's managing our cash flow. And y'all got me teaching now here. But that's managing our cash flow so that we don't have the kinds of fluctuations that a lot of people can be afraid of when they're trying to grow their business. So that's just one small example of some of the things that we talk about in these programs to get into the little things that make our business grow and make our business flow.
Shay. Thank you. This has been great. I've talked to Mr. Tommy Robinson quite a bit about his thoughts on integration and how that's really affected the financial situation of the African American community. So we had Black Wall Street because we were doing the things he's talking about. So we've always been entrepreneurs, right? Now we're in a situation where we're back to it being explained to us that that is a possibility for us, right? So we're like at the back of the bus again. I'm interested in your thoughts on how the funding, where it's a lot going into building the trades and workforce development, kind of like hourly workforce development. But is there money going into the entrepreneurship building and the capacity there? And then I want to know where the NAACP falls into the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I am not on the city council, so I don't know everywhere that they're spending dollars. I try to keep up with their budget. But I do know that they have allocated, even the most recent budget, they've allocated funds. For instance, next CLT that I shared with you, they get grant dollars from the city of Charlotte to fund that program. It doesn't cover everything. They have to get grant dollars from other organizations too. They're a nonprofit organization. So the city is investing not only in the economic workforce development, but they're investing in the entrepreneurship piece too. I know that Generator, and I know the reason I know this is because Gromedics bid on the work for that Generator won to put on this innovation startup kind of accelerator that's coming. Those are city dollars. They're spending those dollars on that program. And so I just want you to know that, and again, I don't know everything and where all the dollars are going, but I do see places where they are investing and believe in entrepreneurship. Absolutely. What was your second question?
Where does the NAACP fall into the larger conversation, in particular here in Charlotte?
Yeah, I wish I knew. That feels like a Tommy question for me. Can you answer that question for us?
No, you cannot. Thank you. Understand?
Good morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Hey, good morning.
Is this on?
It's green light on.
Yes, it is now. Hello. How you doing?
Wonderful. You are.
Good, good. My name is Cedric, and I want to know about your coaching. How do you determine who goes in groups? I know it's a financial piece to it as well, but how do you encourage people in your coaching to be in a group or individual?
Yeah, so you're talking about Gromedics and the coaching that we offer, which is separate and different from the programs that I'm talking about today. I introduced myself as a business coach and trainer, and our first, I should say, margin of profit comes from working directly with business owners. So I mentioned that these programs are competitive. Sometimes you can't get in. Sometimes you got to wait until the next year. You got a burning thing that you want to make sure you're working on or taking care of. And so Gromedics does offer individual one-on-one coaching with a small business owner who wants to invest in themselves and help grow their business to the next level. And we also offer group coaching as well. And that decision is in the hands of a small business owner. Sometimes it's a budget thing, but sometimes it's, I don't want to share my business with 6 other people, and I want direct access to Nikita and the coaches at Gromedics to be able to get really specific about what it is that I'm trying to do in my business. So getting started with us is a quick conversation. There's an easy way to book on the website to be able to do that. And sitting in that conversation is a mini coaching session in that moment. So I absolutely allow small business owners, when they're doing what we call a discovery call, is to come to me with a real problem. Like, let's talk about that in a moment. And there's nothing better than to give you a real experience of what coaching might look like. And a lot of people are really surprised that it's not, again, I'm telling you, here's what you must do. And based on my experience, I know this and that. It really is helping you find, right? Because you know your business better than anybody else. You know your dreams and where you're trying to go. So it's really asking the right questions and encouraging you in the right way. so that you can get to the place you want to get to in your business. Had a conversation just yesterday, a discovery call with someone, and they were making that decision around do I do one-on-one, do I do group? And ultimately it came down to she wanted to build that one-on-one relationship with me and really tackle a specific issue in her business. So I think that's how people are making that choice, but they're both available. I appreciate the question.
All right, we're at the 9:30 mark, so this is where Ms. Natalie will really bring down the hammer. So we're gonna keep questions to 30 seconds. Please, if you could have your responses to a minute and a half.
Okay.
All right, Tommy, Gary, Ken, and Tasha.
Okay, Tommy Robinson. Like, have you considered, like, my first inspiration to go into business for myself was the watermelon man. You know, the man was coming.
I love a good watermelon.
I mean, the man would come in the community and he had a wine like this, and I would sit there and and look at him, and I come from a dynasty. But the question is, why all people talk? Why a lot of black people try to go into big corporations or start big corporations when you should start? I mean, you can start small. Anybody can go into business. Why we don't teach them to save the money? You know, you sit around, people say, like, I owe $400.
Okay, Tom.
You're a sociologist.
Well, I can give you my short answer, and it's from a parental perspective. I have 3 grown kids, and what I tried to teach them and what they do today is two different things. So I don't know if it's true that we don't try to teach them X, Y, or Z. I think society has changed, times have changed, and you heard a lot, I think in the 90s and the 2000s about venture capital, right? And you heard a lot about startups and like shooting to the moon, and you saw all these companies in the 90s and .com era really, so they saw that, right? They saw that and they decided that that was the way to go. That's my guess. I'd love to hear from a young person to share more about that.
Okay,
Gary.
Cut it off back on. Now, I think when I raised my hand, it was more so when we were speaking about the creating relationships in this community. But I was also going to add on to that Charlotte is a very philanthropic city. We used to get that question all the time with the Black Chamber. With Charlotte being a philanthropic city, I always tell business owners, find something that you have a passion that you're near and dear about. And when you get involved in that cause, you will find like-minded people within that same organization or that cause. And when they see that your ideologies align outside of business, now they're more comfortable to do business with you. So that's really one of the key ways to building those genuine relationships in Charlotte. And I was also going to add, and you kind of expounded on it with Generator. This is going to be unique in the sense that it's more of an accelerator that's fostering ideas for business. A lot of these accelerators, you have to have an established business. Generator has 2 separate programs, and one of which is even if you have an idea in your mind, they will help you conceptualize that to reality. So it's just a lot different than where you have to have X amount of revenue already in place. This is more so, let's get the business off the ground, and then they have a step that will help you access that funding. So that'll be something coming down the pipeline. I'm sure that's very unique in itself also.
Yeah, I popped the names back on the screen here of the ones again that I know about. There's lots more in Charlotte, and I have to say kudos to Charlotte, you know, as an ecosystem for all of this that's here and the opportunities that are out there. If we go, we do the research, we find them, there's something out there for you.
All right, Mr. Combs.
Yeah. My question is in regards to the folks that we have as elected officials and their efforts toward promoting Black businesses and their support for large corporations. You referenced earlier the $680 million that the Panthers are going to get, and they didn't have to jump through any hoops. What do you find in regards to those minority enterprises that are trying to do business with the city and others who are having to jump through all kinds of hoops, being held up in their progress of growing their businesses and doing their businesses? And we have people who look like them who are giving deference to the people who don't look like them and don't really need the money, but can get it in time.
Yeah, I see Gary reaching for me. It feels like a side conversation we gotta spend like a half an hour on. I'd love to hear Gary's response to that. I think that these growing organizations are starting to get some opportunities. And I said this last time I was here, and I haven't mentioned it today, but it's unfortunate that when we get something, we have to show up. It's gonna open doors for other people of color to be able to get those opportunities. I told you I talk with corporations, I see both sides of it, right? And the corporations will sometimes have people there who are of color and they wanna bring in a vendor and they try somebody and it doesn't work, right? And think about the flack that they get in that organization for, ooh, you tried that thing and I told you, and then, yada, yada, yada. So that's my answer, and it sounds like Gary may have another thought about this, but is that we gotta show up and we gotta make sure that when we do win those opportunities, which are coming way too slow, I agree with you, but when we get them, we have to show up and we have to do it. We have to do it.
Josh, oh, you want to expound on that here?
Yeah, I did kind of. Am I speaking loud enough for the?
No.
No. Yeah. No, I just wanted to expound on that in the sense that not only do we need to show up and be prepared, because I've been in that position for supply diversity wins where you give an opportunity and it makes you look bad when you can't deliver. You have to create intrinsic value. You have to let the city know what your value is for them. At the end of the day, business is a quid pro quo. It's about what can you do for me. So if you don't have any value for the other side, they're not going to see you as such. And sad to say, when it comes to the Panthers, as dismal as the product is on the field, they have a value to the city. And the city, they appreciate that value as differently as we may see it. No.
I saw that on social media about that spin.
Natasha is also difficult to tell a billionaire anything. But Natasha.
In the beginning of the presentation, you mentioned just your matriculation, and you briefly mentioned that you sold your first business.
Yeah.
How did you know it was time to do so?
It was a personal decision. I lost a spouse, and when he passed away, I was kind of in la la land for about 5 or 6 years, still running a business, but just, not with the passion that I had done so before. And he didn't own the business with me or anything, but just found myself in this place where I needed a change. And ironically, when you asked that question, I went through an accelerator. There was an accelerator called Emerging Leaders that was sponsored by the SBA here in Charlotte, and the curriculum that I teach today is actually that same exact curriculum. That one was not specifically for persons of color. So, and the requirements to get in the program was higher. You had to be at 350K, you had to have this, da, 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 da. And so I got in that accelerator program, and we were building a growth plan. And I realized through building that this isn't even what I want to be doing anymore. And that happens in our programs a lot. So some people come in, they got a business, and they're like, you know what, I don't really think, and thank goodness, right, that we're creating opportunities for really find your passion. But my passion is teaching and being able to apply that to entrepreneurship and help people of color leverage that as a tool to, move away from economic oppression to create economic mobility. That just warms my heart. And so that's how I got to do what I'm doing today, is actually through an accelerator.
Miss Mary?
I want to, because she mentioned you getting out of the business, I just wanted to ask you this. I took a course once, a long time ago, on writing a business plan. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is part of the business plan is how to get out of the business. Mm-hmm. When do you know that it's time to sell or stop the business? So that was really, that's something that most people don't do when they start the business. They don't plan. You have to plan how you're going to end the business.
Yeah.
That was one thing that's in your.
I think it's a great place. We don't have that programmed into the curriculum, but it's a great place to leverage a business coach to be planning out what is your exit strategy for the business and making sure, like a lot of people are like, I'll give it to my kids. But then you talk to the kids and they're like, all right, you want that business? So you really do need to be thinking about what that strategy looks like. And the reason I love what you're saying that you have to do it before is because you have to run the business in such a way that it's positioned for you to, whatever strategy you choose, you got to position that to get there. We do that a lot in coaching when I talk to small business owners, as we talk about what's your exit strategy, what's next for you, what's your long-term goal, where you're trying to get to, not just in business, but in life. In life, what do you want? And how can your business help you get there?
Well, I never did follow through with the business, so I'm just.
It's never too late now. If you want to start a business now, I'm here.
Jay Hill.
Hey, I'm Jay Hill. I own a public relations agency here in Charlotte. Mr. Coombs was in Leadership Charlotte Class 4. I was just graduated from Class 45. And, I want to say this real quick. All of the accelerator programs are great. I've met with a lot of folks who've either been in it or who run them.
Yeah.
There's an elephant in the room when it relates to Charlotte as it comes to relationships, and that Charlotte has a narrative of being cliquish and good old boy network, or all of those things. And what I'm concerned about, and let me say this, I am on the quest of building the largest PR agency here in Charlotte. That's my goal as a Black man here, right?
Awesome.
What I cannot do is build that by having small clients, trying to have 100 clients at a small rate per month.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to do big deals and work with municipalities and things of that nature, right? What my concern is that if you don't have those relationships, you can't get those types of accounts. And it seems like we're getting to a place where the only way to be able to do that is to go through some of these programs like the one I just went through and some of these accelerated programs. And so I would like to get your point of view of how can you build a big business in Charlotte without having to go through these programs to build the relationships that may lend that.
You just tell people you went to Carolina. Just tell people you went to Carolina. It works every time. You don't even have to be sure. Just tell them you went to Carolina. Also went to Carolina. I don't think that'll work that well. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're absolutely fine. I don't know that I agree with the premise that you have to go through these programs. First of all, I didn't, right? I did an accelerated program late in my business, but when I got here, I just grassroots, right? Going out and participating in the opportunities that are out there with the Black Chamber, with the Latin Chamber, with the Regional Chamber, with there was an organization which I think is still around. It's not necessarily a Black organization, but Business Leaders of Charlotte I got involved with. When I got here, I didn't see a lot of people of color back in 2004 doing business in the areas that I was doing it. So I got involved with Charlotte Black Professionals, which was a meetup group at the time, and it's grown huge since then in the 20 years. But I think there are. I respectfully disagree. I think that there are lots of opportunities to go do, meet, find the relationships. You mentioned Leadership Charlotte, for instance, without having to go through the accelerators. Do they offer additional? Yes, absolutely. So I would say yes, and take advantage of the accelerator, but also find those opportunities on your own too.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the point that I am looking at is when we're talking about organizations that, Ray Ward, looking at my space, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make $30 million per year. There's a large gap between me and my counterparts in our agencies versus that. And so what I'm seeing is I'm just looking at the path to get there.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted your perspective on that.
Yeah. I do think, and if you're talking advertising, marketing, like PR, that industry in of itself specifically has some, yeah, you're saying it's quickish. That industry particularly, it's got some nuances in it that may be challenging to navigate. I'll give you that.
Time Robinson.
Yeah, I have a problem.
We know.
I have a problem related to business. You know, like I go to a restaurant, I eat out quite often. And if I go to a Mexican restaurant, I know it's a good restaurant. I look for Mexican. If I go to a Chinese restaurant, Asian restaurant, I look for Asian.
Okay, get to the question.
What's weird? Why do we think we have to be inclusive of everybody? Why we think we have to be all inclusive when we live in a society that excludes?
Yeah, I love the question, but I think it's bigger than me. Yeah, that's a big broad question about why we think we have to include everybody. I can tell you, I want to say this one story when I was in the Black Chamber. We were hosting something, we were reading the book. Gary, do you remember what the name of the book was we were reading? I told you I love books, but it was about a woman out of Chicago that decided she was gonna buy black for an entire year and how hard that experience was for her. I can't remember the name of the book. But we brought her in. The Black Chamber brought her in to like speak and talk about her experience. And on our Facebook page, I'll never forget this. There was somebody talking about why we needed a Black Chamber and like why y'all got to be focusing on just the Black this and the Black that and blah 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 blah. And I just found that really interesting. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but it's out there where there are opportunities for exclusiveness. I'll say that in terms of working and being with your own people. And people are not okay with that. And then there's opportunities for inclusiveness, and people are not okay with that either. So that's what come to mind when you talked about that. I'll never forget that comment because I was like, what do they care?
It's not about being exclusive. And
I have a question.
I think you wrapping us up here.
No. Actually, we got a little time.
Okay, good.
Is there a pipeline in place or system in place that can identify which entrepreneur with the side hustle is worthy of nurturing to eventually make it up to the AMPUP program?
So to be clear, AMPUP isn't the one for the side hustles. That's going to be Luna Launchpad.
Is there a pipeline from the Launchpad to AMPUP so you can grow and have the information you need to grow conducive?
Yeah, I think I could probably take this list of business accelerator programs and make a map. I probably could, and I think even the Beyond Become Charlotte Collective is working on that. But make a map that kind of shows like if you're a startup, you start here, and then if you want to go to the next level, you maybe making a 25K. I talked about with Luna Launchpad, that would be a requirement. Then you go here, and then when you get out of that program, because our goal at Gromedics right now is we're trying to get business owners to $250,000. We want to get 1,000 business owners to $250,000 by 2030. And so if you get to $250,000, then what program is the next program for you after that? And then if you're trying to get to $1 million, then where do you go after that? So I think I could probably build something that connects all of those things. So yes, is the answer to your question. There is a pipeline, but exactly what that looks like with all of these programs, I don't know that I have that right now.
Before we get to Mr. Combs, and even like I'm trying to empathize with what a listener, one of our own listeners, online listeners would think. What is if somebody has a side hustle that is a creative passion, they make T-shirts or art, and I'm hearing this and I want to take advantage of the opportunities, but when I hear procurement or government contracts, it seems so lofty and maybe like in centric of businesses such as construction. What does working with local municipalities or large organizations, what does that encompass that could be some of those creative entrepreneurial passions?
Yeah, I
I feel like there's two questions in one, because if you come to Luna Launchpad, that's not where we're taking you, right? We're taking you from, I'm working a job, I'm getting a paycheck. How do I transition that mindset to this entrepreneurship thing is my full-time thing? I just coached a woman, not in the Charlotte area, but she's on the coast in North Carolina, and she's working a job and she wants to leave the job, but she is scared out of her mind. And I always, it's a little funny to me, not a funny haha, but just so many weird things. Is because when I started my first business, it was because I got downsized, outsized, laid off, like all that kind of stuff. And so we walk around with this like, ooh, I got a corporate job. I'm working and, an employer's employing me and I have stability, right? And so it's helping women of color realize that you can provide your own stability and helping you build a plan that's based on a break-even number. And that break-even number has to include your salary. What do you need to make? And what do I need to sell in order to make that number? What is that number for me? And as a matter of fact, I want to point you guys to a resource in reference to this question on our website. If you go, there's something called a crash course. And that crash course is all around helping you do the math, is what we call it. And it's the math around what does break-even look like for my organization. So I would encourage those folks who are, I got a side gig, I'm creative, to start small and not jump out there thinking about contracts from the beginning. Maybe it's, let me get my footing, let me make sure I've got my foundation, and then I can move to those types of contracts that might be available. And that said, last year, the last program that we taught for in Buck Charlotte, we always have a partner, a community partner. And last year it was the Charlotte Regional Visitors Association. And I was amazed at the number of opportunities that they have for people who are doing non-traditional things. So not just you contracting and you this and you that, but they're out there. It's my point. They're absolutely out there.
Thank you so much. We got Mr. Combs, then Gary's going to expound on something. Then you're going to have your closing statement.
Awesome.
And we'll go to announcements.
In addition to the chamber, I initially joined the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is now the regional, whatever they call it. And, the PRSA, Public Relations Society of America. And I encourage folks to join those trade organizations. My question is in regards to where you are today, and I'm kind of beyond a lot of this stuff because the dynamic has changed so drastically. And my question to you is, have you ever heard of Archive Charlotte?
I've not heard of Archive Charlotte. What is Archive Charlotte?
Then I'm going to expand it more, but I invite you to visit because it's a young black woman who has started a very fantastic coffee shop for black women. She has absolutely no program, no federal dollars, no state dollars, no tax dollars, and she did it on her own. I think it would be something you might want to.
I'll look into that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to piggyback off of Winston's question, and I wanted to ask your estimation because I know Generator won't launch until about 2025. But for people doing the side hustle, how do you create it?
Sure.
Would you say City Startup Labs would benefit in that? Because I don't know too much of Luna Launchpad or the others, but between Generator and City Startup Labs, I'm guessing those are two where you can take a side hustle and turn it into a true business.
Potentially, City Startup Labs, I love their concept because sometimes we forget about our fellows who have left the prison system. And that's where City Startup Labs focus is. I said there was a program for everybody, right? Henry Rock and his team over there are doing an incredible job of helping people figure out, because when you come out of prison, I have a brother who was incarcerated for a while. When you come out of prison, sometimes you can't find opportunities. Nobody want to hire you. They've seen or done this and that, blah, 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 blah. And so entrepreneurship can be that tool that you utilize to become a productive member of our society again. And so that's where City Startup Labs focus is around those folks who are exiting the prison system and trying to get their footing and being able to leverage entrepreneurship as a means of being able to do that. In that case, you're right, Carrie. No, I don't have a business structure yet. I just have an idea, right? And so they'll give you the resources that you need to be able to take it from idea to how do I actually make this productive, I'm making money, hopefully profitable business as well.
All right, we're gonna squeeze Shay in before we have your closing.
I'm just wondering how challenging is the expectations people have to how quickly their business is going to become profitable and the time commitment that's really required to reach success. Do you find that a challenge to people coming in those programs? A challenge for you with the people that are coming in?
Yeah, I think when we interview for Amp Up Charlotte in particular, we're asking what we hope are the right questions to really get to people who, as I mentioned earlier, are going to roll up your sleeves and do the work. But inevitably, out of the 20 that we select, there's somebody here or there that doesn't make it through the program. We graduate probably about 18 of those 20 every year, which is still a good high number. But sometimes it's because I didn't, we told you, we showed you, and we talked about it, and maybe your colleague who recommended you get in the program said it's going to be a lot of work, and you got to be committed, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. They get in there, and they're like, ooh, I heard you say that, but I didn't realize this is what you meant. And I think that's important because entrepreneurship in of itself takes that hard work and that commitment and that dedication. And so if you're finding when you get in this type of program that you can't or won't spend the time and energy to grow yourself so that you can grow your business, it's good to know that, right? So you can make the right decisions in your life and in your path that you need to be able to make. But absolutely, we run into that. Not so much with startups, like at the idea thing. Like I think people already think entrepreneurship is hard. So if you got an idea and you start seeing that it's hard, you're like, oh yeah, I knew it was hard. But definitely those businesses who think I'm gonna scale and I'm gonna do it easy, that takes a lot of dedication. And so yeah, we see that for sure.
All right, facilitator's privilege, Ms. McClellan.
What I'd like to ask you is if you could share with us one of the businesses or that you have worked with from the very beginning that you are the proudest of. You don't necessarily have to give us names.
You asked me to choose one of my babies and say it's my favorite?
Yes, and share with us just how you feel about what you have done and you continue to do with Amp Up.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many stories. I've been, again, 8 cohorts in. We started out teaching 1 cohort a year, and then the demand was there, and so we moved to 2 cohorts a year. So we're in a place where we're doing that. And out of all the students, there's one who I actually still meet with, and you guys have to see her exhibit. So Nia McAdoo is her name, and she owns a company called Homage Exhibit. And they have a collection of African-American artifacts. They are pictures and images and art and like all kinds of stuff that sort of show and tell our story throughout the ages of what's been in America. And it's a traveling exhibit that gets rented out or leased out a day at a time or sometimes multiple days to different museums. It was just at UNCC. And she also, corporations asked for this exhibit because they want their ERG groups to be able to see it, but it's powerful. She can do it online. But check out Homage, HOMAGE exhibit. And the reason why I bring her up is because she was, I think, in class 2 or 3 of Amp Up Charlotte, and she was not running Homage at the time. She had a different business. That business was called Amped Events. And you talk about an exit strategy. She was like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. And I don't know how to get out of it. And so through Amp Up, and she also participated in Next CLT. So she did that one, then did another one. And then she bought coaching from me. But it allowed her to create a strategy to exit out of the business that she was in. She ended up selling it, her first business, to somebody else. And she tells the story that she was inspired by me. Like when I introduced myself to potential Amp Ups through the open houses that we have, I talk about how I sold my business. And she heard that and she was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that was a thing. I want to sell my business too. So we worked together to build a strategy for her to be able to do that. And then over the next year, she executed on that strategy. And that's what allowed her to be doing the passion thing that she's doing today. And then if I want to just beat on that drum a little bit more,
Nia has a penchant for coaching. Like she loves helping other Black businesses as well, Black and brown businesses, business of color. And she is coming on because I want to grow too. And I can't keep teaching AMBUP all the time. She's coming on as a facilitator for AMBUP Charlotte. This fall, she's going to be shadowing me so that she can start to take over that program. So we're all growing through this experience. So yeah, thank you for that question.
All right, Ms. Nikita Allen, would you like to leave us with a closing statement and tell us how to get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I've enjoyed spending time with every single one of you. The thing I would leave with you is just know that there's opportunities out there and that these programs do exist. As I mentioned, our mission, and I left these bookmarks around the table because I'm a reader, so I'm encouraging y'all to read too. But our mission is around helping entrepreneurs of color start, build, and grow a profitable and sustainable business. Profitable and sustainable is so important. Lots of people are focused on that revenue number, but for Black and brown businesses, we have to be profitable and we need to stick around. So if you want to be able to reach us, you can just go right to Growmetics, GROWMETIX.com. You also can visit lunalaunchpad.com. If you're interested in registering for any of these programs, I would recommend that you look up these names. Sorry, I didn't get to get the website addresses for you, but look these names up on the internet and apply for one of them, or encourage somebody that you know to apply for it, because entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is the key for transitioning our economic mobility state to get where we want to go. So thank you again.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Nikita Allen. If you have announcements, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Please submit them to Steve at sjohnston@tuesdayforumcharlotte.org. That's sjohnston with a T at tuesdayforumcharlotte.org. Thank you so much for attending the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. Please come back next week where our guest will be nobody. Nobody, baby, because it is the 4th of July. But after that, guess who's coming?